I feel like there are people out there who will take advantage of this law to try to push their agenda, that they can come in and require that we submit to whatever they feel like is right, even though they might never have set foot in this library.
Well, that was the fear of a lot of local librarians from around the state since House Bill 710 was signed into law. The new Children's School and Library Protection Act, the law that opens up libraries to civil lawsuits if they don't remove a book someone considers harmful to minors, since it went into effect the first of this month, which meant libraries and school districts that didn't already have a formal materials review process in place had to come up with one. And those that did, maybe they had to make some adjustments. So here we are a couple of weeks into that law being live, and we know of a couple of libraries that have revised their reconsideration policies, in a way putting some restrictions on who can ask them to restrict their books. You may remember the Meridian Library District was at the hub of a brouhaha over the books in their library, the poster child of porn in the library. There was even an attempt to dissolve the Meridian Library District, which went nowhere when it was made known how impractical that would be and that a vast majority of Meridianites actually liked the library the way it was. One could argue this public dispute set the stage for how we ended up with the library law we have now. So that because of this change in Idaho code, the district, the Meridian Library District, felt the need to rewrite what they've already had in place for years, and they're not the only one.
For as long as I've been here, for the last 13 years plus, we've had a collection development policy that had a request for reconsideration process as part of it.
But last month,
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I move that we approve the collection development policy.
Thank you. Second.
the Meridian Library District Board of Trustees tweaked it a bit to accommodate Idaho's new library law.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
In their updated 18-page policy, they made it clear requests received from individuals or groups who do not use or have access to district materials will not be considered.
So part of the law and how we also have incorporated it into our policy is that a person must have physical access to the material in order to meet the definitions within the law. So if you don't have access to the material, you are therefore not an affected party.
Access to the material means anyone who can walk into any of Meridian's 4 libraries. Why not take it a step further and say you have to be a tax-paying citizen of the Meridian Library District?
We had looked at doing that. We weren't comfortable going that far because there's some vagueness to the new law, and we wanted to be sure that we were compliant with the law and the spirit of the law.
Well, you feel like you're following the letter of the law.
Correct. Yes, we do.
But in the Boise School District,
So there's a library in every one of our buildings, so that's like 53.
53. That's a lot of books.
Yeah, yes it is.
They felt following the letter of the law allowed for narrowing its focus. Do kids spend time in the school library?
Oh, definitely. It is like a social hub.
Are they checking out books?
Oh, yes. Yeah, they are for sure. Students, they read for pleasure. I mean, it might be a misnomer that they don't anymore, but they still do. They totally do.
A lot of kids coming in means a lot of books going out.
So we've had a reconsideration policy for, well, it's probably 30 plus years.
And over those 3 decades, you would think there'd be a few challenges with a few of them.
No, in fact, the one time that I can remember a book coming, it was like in the 90s.
So we have a motion for policy 2510, 2512, 2512R, 7410 to be effective immediately.
However, because of what went into effect July 1st,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those policies will go into action immediately.
Boise School District trustees revamped their request for reconsideration policy to specify any request had to come from a parent or guardian of an enrolled student.
Yeah, so one of the things we talked about was that it was really important to us that a student's ability to read was between them and their parent, and so we didn't want an outside influence impacting what a family wanted their student to read. Does that make sense?
It made sense to them after they got advice from lawyers, legislative liaisons, and the Idaho School Boards Association.
And one of the things that was a recommendation was that limit it to the people who are actually patrons of our libraries. And someone doesn't walk in off the street into a school library. It's a library for our students and our families. We want a diverse selection of books because what might not be, your student's cup of tea could be something that someone else really likes.
And so the change you made to the policy by narrowing it, you feel is following the law?
Yes, yeah, and that was something we were really careful about because, we're public servants, so our first job is to be compliant with what our state wishes, right? And then we do feel like we've got a good avenue for folks if they do have a concern. So I think we feel pretty confident about the direction we're moving in.
Beck also says she and the rest of the Boise School District, they were kind of worried about how they would apply the law once it went into effect, but they realized it's not as constrictive as they thought it might be, possibly because of how they've handled how they choose the books they have in their libraries already and how they handle any concerns with them, how they've been doing it for years. She told us it has always been better to deal with any challenge with a conversation, a human touch instead of, filling out a form. The same for Meridian. Nick Grove told us despite the dust up to dissolve the district a couple of years ago, that actually didn't change how they've done things for the last 100 years. Their goal is still to meet the needs of their patrons by listening to the residents to create a collection that is based on the needs and wants of the community. Meridian hasn't had any challenges since 2022, and neither Meridian nor Boise have had any challenges or requests for reconsideration since July 1st.